It's 2 a.m., and your phone still knows exactly where you are. A plane lands itself in thick fog. A stock trade executes with a microsecond timestamp. All of it, free, beamed from 12,000 miles above. But what if those signals just stopped? Not from war, but from a cheap jammer or the sun. We've built a $1.7 trillion economy on an invisible, fragile thread. And the man who invented GPS calls it our largest unaddressed vulnerability. This is the story of the silent utility that became our single point of failure. In a world of instant deliveries, smooth flights, and tractors that steer themselves, we rarely stop to think about the invisible force guiding them. A delivery truck turns exactly where the map says. A plane descends through clouds with perfect precision. A farmer's tractor traces a flawless line across the field. These aren't miracles, they're GPS. And it's everywhere. A constellation of just 31 satellites, orbiting 12,000 miles overhead, serves billions of devices, generating an estimated $122.4 billion in economic benefits annually in the US alone. But here's the paradox. GPS is a free, invisible utility. Unlike water or electricity, there's no meter. It's just there. And that invisibility is a trap, because we've stopped asking how it works. And we've stopped planning for when it doesn't. So how did a Cold War military project become the silent, essential heartbeat of modern civilization? And why did we let it? Next, we descend into the vulnerabilities, a signal from the brink. Let's go back to where it all began. 1973, the US Department of Defense launches the GPS project. It wasn't a gift to the world. It was a weapon designed to guide missiles and troops with pinpoint accuracy. The first handheld unit, the Magellan NAV-1000, cost $3,000 in 1989, a brick that could tell you where on Earth you stood if you had a clear view of the sky. But then, a tragedy rewrites the script. September 1st, 1983. Korean Airlines Flight 007 drifts off course into Soviet airspace and is shot down. 269 people perish. In the aftermath, President Reagan, horrified, authorizes civilian use of GPS. The dual-use system is born, not by accident, but by design. As the Cold War fades, the constellation grows. By 1993, the full suite of 24 satellites is operational, and the world begins to reorient itself around a new kind of North Star. But here's the catch. That signal was deliberately kept weak. A whisper from space, because it was never meant to be the backbone of a planet. So why then? Is that whisper now carrying the weight of global finance, power grids, and emergency services? In 2014, the father of GPS, Dr. Brad Parkinson, issued a bone-chilling warning. GPS is a single point of failure for much of America, and our largest unaddressed infrastructure vulnerability. A Department of Homeland Security report found that 15 out of 18 critical infrastructure sectors, from telecom to nuclear reactors, rely on GPS. It's not just about maps, it's about time. Every GPS satellite carries an atomic clock, ticking with nanosecond precision. Those ticks synchronize stock trades, phase-lock power grids, and timestamp internet data packets. GPS is the silent metronome of the modern world. And here's the terrifying thing. The signal is shockingly fragile. The GPS signal reaching your phone is about as powerful as a light bulb shining from the moon. A $50 jammer bought online can drown it out. A solar storm can distort it. In May 2024, the Gannon superstorm knocked out precision farming across America for days. Tractors that steer themselves by GPS just stopped in the middle of fields. So if the signal's so easy to break, why haven't we built a real backup? The answer lies in a forgotten 20th century technology. Let's travel back to the 1950s. Before GPS, ships relied on eLoran, a terrestrial radio navigation system. For decades, it was the gold standard for navigation at sea. Its modern upgrade, eLoran, can achieve plus or minus 8-meter accuracy, competitive with unenhanced GPS. That's accurate enough to park a car, no satellites needed. eLoran uses massive, ground-based transmitters. Its signal is 1,000,000 times stronger than GPS. If GPS is a whisper, eLoran is a rock concert. You can't jam it from orbit, and you can't spoof it with a laptop. It's a perfect, complementary backup. But here's the tragedy. The US shut down its eLoran sea stations in 2010, and despite years of discussion, eLoran remains largely unbuilt. The infrastructure investment is heavy, and the political will is absent. Sure, Russia has GLONASS, Europe has Galileo, China has Beidou, more satellites, more redundancy, but they all beam down from space, sharing the same fundamental weakness, those fragile signals. So if eLoran is the answer, why is it still a ghost network? And what does the world look like if we don't act? That's exactly what we'll explore next in Day Zero, the Cascading collapse. It starts not with a bang, but with a flicker. A solar superstorm barrels toward Earth, or maybe it's a coordinated spoofing attack by a nation-state. To the satellites, the signals distort, then fall silent. For the first 30 seconds, nothing visible happens. Planes are still in the air, stock tickers blink green, the lights stay on. But that's the quiet before the cascade. In aviation, planes lose precise GPS navigation. Fog rolls in, and they can't land. In finance, timestamps drift, high-frequency trading seizes up, markets freeze. Then the power grid. Phase synchronization fails, protective relays trip, and a regional blackout begins to spread. Telecom. Cell towers drift out of sync, calls drop, 911 calls degrade. Self-driving tractors stop dead mid-row, and the food supply chain stutters. Emergency services, police and ambulances, are suddenly blind, unable to navigate. Ships at sea lose their bearings. Economists estimate the direct hit, $96 billion. But the real cost? Chaos. A society that forgot how to function without a signal. And here's the terrifying part. This isn't some doomsday hypothetical. Jamming and spoofing are, in the words of experts, almost a global emergency. So the question becomes, what is being done right now to prevent it? We'll examine that in Who Guards the Guardians? Today, the U.S. Space Force quietly tends to the GPS constellation, fine-tuning orbits, synchronizing clocks, pushing navigational updates. But the real guardians? They're a scrappy patchwork. Researchers, activists, a handful of lawmakers. Meet Dana Goward of the Resilient Navigation and Timing Foundation. She recounts a chilling moment. A director at the National Security Council called GPS a single point of failure for America. Those warnings have been public for over a decade, yet the backup gap persists. The cost of a national eLoran network is estimated in the low billions, a fraction of the $1.7 trillion cumulative economic benefit of GPS. But it's a hard sell, a backup for a system that hasn't failed yet. So, what does it take to protect an invisible utility? Not just technology, it's a shift in how we see the invisible threads that hold our world together. GPS isn't just a map. It's the hidden rhythm our digital world dances to. A rhythm we rarely question until it skips a beat. If you want to stay tuned to these invisible backbones holding up your everyday life, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell so you don't miss a single signal.